Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Mulligans and Milkshakes podcast presented by the Crimson Crossover Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Christian Sykes, joined again, as always, by Charles Branch and Matthew Travis. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well. Good week of golf. We got a great week of golf ahead of us and excited for another podcast.
I'm just hoping, obviously it's going to be sponsored by Wells Fargo this week is the tournament, but I could go the next several years without having to watch another BB Go commercial from last week's uh, you know, tournament, the Byron Nelson. I mean, it was every commercial, it was every tee box. Uh, I'm glad that we're last place is competing for a pimento cheese sandwich and not a BB Go spread, to be honest.
Maybe instead of pimento cheese, you have to remake the BB Go commercial.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into the fantasy results, which if you guys haven't seen, somehow Matthew is continuing to extend his lead when we have six golfers to his five. So we'll have to figure something out as far as maybe nerfing him a little bit. But
You guys get Myrtle Beach golfers this week too, and I only get Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
something like that. But um, let's start with Charles. You said that you played some golf with the boys this week. Let's hear the stories that you have from that.
Yeah, well, before I played with them on Saturday, I had the opportunity after work to get out there and get in a quick 18 on Tuesday. And that was coming off of talking to Cannon. And I really liked his advice of playing up in the tee box or playing a higher set of tees than what I typically played. And played, scored a lot better. The course I'd played the weekend before from the three tees, I shot 89. I'd go out there and I shoot 84 on Tuesday, more greens in regulation, more looks at birdie. And clearly, I putted a lot better that day. For me, I had 33 putts, which was great. But doing that, it allowed me to kind of slow down, my swing and be a lot better on the tempo side because I'm not trying to crush it, to get farther down the fairway to give myself an easier shot. And the same thing with my approach shots. It's using a sand wedge or a pitching wedge or a 9-iron. So that I really liked that as far as just fundamentals of getting a good swing tempo. And then of course with that too, it's typically I'm hitting driver and then I'm hitting one of those 9-irons or wedges. I'm not really having to deal with the 5 or the 6 or the 7-iron. And then of course I'm putting. So as I continue to try to get better, I'm kind of shrinking the game as far as not having to play with a bunch of clubs, which I think will be good if I continue to go this route of playing up. I played Friday and went back a level and shot a 91, but I had 40 putts. I just couldn't put anything in the hole. But I found I got a lot of confidence as it relates to my approach shots of just knowing, hey, I can get some greens in regulation. I think I had like 7 greens in regulation of the 18 holes, and there's probably a few that were close of just being on the fringe. Just that confidence of like you can get on the green helped me in that round. And of course, I just didn't take advantage of it from the putting side. And then Saturday, took the boys out there. Reagan went out there as well with us. We played 9 holes. Wilson, my youngest, shot his age on the par 3 third hole that we play. He got a 4. It was about 100 yards out from him. He hit his driver, 2 more shots, got on the green, and then hit a 15-footer. And so happy for him as he continues to just love getting out there and playing and finding tees. We found golf balls out there as well, so everybody should be happy. And I just give credit to my wife as well, playing a par 4, and she does not play, but she got herself where she got her 3rd shot basically on the fringe on the green, and she putts like I do, so it took a couple putts to get in there. But I think for her just to get up to the green where she had a look for a par for somebody who maybe played a dozen times in her life, and not played within the past couple of years. Like I think she was happy with that, but just a good a good weekend playing with them, and again, watched a little bit of the Byron Nelson together as well. So looking forward to hopefully finding an opportunity to get out there this week. Got some rain in the forecast here in Alabama, but again, a positive week of, again, just wanting to continue to get out there and still coming back, having enough good shots that keeps you coming back onto the course.
You talked about it there, Cannon kind of helping your game. I'm sure you haven't thought about it, but do you have kind of a goal of where you want to get score-wise or confidence in your game-wise before you move back up or continue to move back in tees?
I think I'd like to birdie every hole from the 2 tees and then possibly move back. And I know that there will be times that I still move back when I'm playing with guys or just, out there playing. I think that's a goal that I have. And I think a goal just for this year is I want to have a round where I get 30 putts or less. I think that would show a lot of improvement of putting the ball in the right position. If it's going to be a 2-putt because it's a long putt, making more 5-10 footers. So those are 2 goals that I have for this year. Last year, my goal was to par every hole from the 3s, which I did. So now if I'm going to play up, see if I can get a birdie on every hole and then push myself back to the 3s potentially.
That's a birdie on every hole, not in the same round. Just
Correct.
so that we're
Yeah.
so we're clear.
You don't want to shoot a 58?
That'd be awesome, but
54?
that's not gonna happen. And I did get one on that round on Tuesday. I birdied a par 4, so 17 more holes to go.
There you go.
Yeah, I haven't been able to get out. It rained all weekend here. But similar lines of what Cannon said, my uncle who plays a ton of golf and he goes out with his wife, he told me that when they go out, he and his wife, he plays from the ladies tees and just works on his iron game and just so that they can play together and things like that. And Sam and I haven't really done that, but it might be something that I might consider just because I think the biggest issue for me in my game on a consistent basis is my second shot. So hitting those irons, there's some rounds that I hit them really well, but it's just so inconsistent. And I really feel like that's where I'm losing a lot of my scoring is just not being consistent with my irons. And so I think the next time that Sam and I go out, it might be something that I consider, because I generally drive the ball pretty well and the driver isn't something that I need to kind of work on as far as my game is concerned. Sometimes there's inaccuracies, but most of the time I hit it pretty straight, and I leave myself in a reasonable spot to be able to continue to play, which is the goal for me. So might be something that I consider whenever it dries out here in North Carolina or South Carolina.
And I'm kind of the opposite now. Now that my member guest passed, now I'm beginning preparation for the club championship, which unfortunately is the same weekend as Alabama, Georgia. So I probably won't be going to Alabama, Georgia. But I played the tips last year when I kind of forced myself to play the championship, play from the tips, and didn't do well. There was one hole, which on the back I did well. I was combined 3 over on the 2 days, but there was one hole, it's a par 3, and I was combined 6 or 7 over the 2 days from hitting 2 or 3 balls into the water both days, and it just did not go well. And that kind of derailed. But now that it's 4 months away, I'm allowing myself to prepare a little more. When I play weekend rounds, I'm playing with a bunch of people, and we play from the men's tees, but I play once or twice during the week, and now I'm going to start to force myself to play back a little bit, get used to hitting 6-7 iron out of the fairway rather than pitching wedge, sand wedge, whatever it might be, which will be a little bit of an adjustment. So my scores will probably be a little worse for a little while, but once I get it down. But the other thing is there's a drivable par 4 that I talked about a couple weeks ago. That's not drivable anymore. And then par 5s, which I have eagles on all the par 5s. Now it's not exactly eagleable unless it's downwind. So it'll definitely be a little different, but I'm kind of the opposite where I'm forcing myself to play a little back to play in that flight, which not necessary, I guess, but I want to push myself a little bit.
Well, something I found probably not surprising, and Cannon talked about this too, starting from the green and then working back. You know, I could change where I was playing from, and obviously the distance was different, but you get to the green, there's nothing different there from whatever tees you play from. And until I start getting better there and more consistent, I know my score is not going to drop like I would want it to. But that, I mean, by hole 4 or 5, that what really stuck out to me is like, yeah, it's great to have easier shots in, but it is putting's maybe the most
Putting's
important part
king.
of the game. Yeah,
They say drive for show, putt for dough. It's
that's
true.
right.
Well, I think the good thing about playing up, at least in mine and your situation, Charles, is kind of what Matthew said is it's forcing us to put lower clubs in our hands, using wedges, using 9 irons, being better around the green. Whereas normally when I'm playing, I'll have a 7 iron, maybe an 8 iron in my hand on my second shot. Now I'm going to have, a wedge, a 9 iron, 56, things like that. Um, and I think that's the last time I played. I think that's what kind of derailed me was when I was driving it, I would literally have a wedge in my hand most of the time. And I'm just not used to hitting a lot of shots with my wedges. Um, Around the green, like chipping, yeah, but not like full shots. And it kind of threw me off and didn't allow me to score as much as I normally would because I just don't. I usually exclusively practice with my 7 degree, my 7 iron, my 6 iron, and my 5 iron, just because those are the normal shots that I'm hitting out of the fairway relative to a wedge. So,
Yeah.
Well, going off that, are you guys starting with you, I guess, Christian, are you comfortable with the full swing wedge? Because I talked about it a little while ago. My full swing wedges are probably the worst part of my game because out of 10 shots, I might chunk like 3 of them. And with my irons, I won't chunk any of them. I might hit some thin, but my wedges, for whatever reason, and like I did it twice in the member guest, and it kind of derails around and because it could lose you a hole. But for me, full swing wedges are so inconsistent. That's why for a while when I was playing the tips, getting ready for the championship last year, I was scoring better because I had a 6 iron in my hand and I was more accurate. So I was just curious if you guys are comfortable with a full swing wedge.
issue for me is I just don't have the distance control. Is like I don't know how far back I need to swing. If I have a 70-yard shot, how far back is that? If it's a 110-yard shot, what does that look like? What wedge am I using and how much do I put under like into it? Because like I said, I just don't practice that much with my wedges just because I'm never in it. I normally am never in a situation where I have to hit like a 70-yard, 50-yard shot. It's usually I'm hitting a 7 iron and it's just short of the green and I'm chipping from that point. So it's definitely something that I need to work on, and I think could probably drop me quite a few strokes once I figure it out.
Pitching wedge and wedge, I'm pretty comfortable with. Sand wedge, which for me is about 85 yards out. Tuesday, I was great. Saturday, I was catching it fat and, be 80 yards out off the drive. Great look, catch it fat, and then you got to chip it on from there. And I did that 3 or 4 times. So just need to work on that club as far as, how much am I opening it up too much as far as a shot like that? Just angles, of course, and everything. But pitching wedge and wedge, I've got my distances relatively dialed in and pretty comfortable on a full swing. From that 105 to 130 yard range between those two clubs.
Yeah. So let's move on just a little bit. After we went through our kind of personal game where update where we stand. This week we have the women's NCAAs, and then next week we have the men's NCAAs. And I think Charles, you worked with a friend of the program to kind of give us a little breakdown for everyone listening for the college side of the golf game. So what do you have for us?
Yeah, David Tennyson, you can follow him at College Golf Book on Twitter X, but where you want to get really good detailed information from him is on his Substack, 5count4.substack.com. Did a phenomenal job of breaking down both the men's and women's regionals. I'll start on the women's side because they're currently teeing off in about an hour. They should have the first round done and maybe in the second round by the time this comes out. But playing out in Washington at Tumble Creek Club, it's a par 72. Alabama comes in as the 7th seed for this regional. The 5 golfers who we've got leading us out there are Maddie Frick, Kennedy Adams, who recently played as an amateur in one of the lower level women's tours, Alina Sins, Harriet Lockley, and Sarah Edwards. They come in, Clipped has Alabama ranked as the 37th best women's golf team. The team right in front of them in the seating, Washington, who's hosting this weekend or this week, they're the 35th. So, you still got an opportunity to hopefully play better than maybe you have recently, find a way to get into one of those top 5 spots to go on to the NCAA championships. The Alabama's women's team, they've made 15, national NCAA, the finals with Mick Potter ever since he's been there. Since 2015, 7 seeds in the women's regionals have only advanced about 30% of the time. So, things are stacked against you, but obviously you never know what happens in golf. And, Stanford's also in this regional. Stanford's, been a phenomenal golf program. They won it back in 2022. They've consistently made the finals. Rose Zong, who's not with them anymore, but she had won the individual past couple of years. She's now playing on the LPGA tour. So a little bit different look for Stanford as they get into it. I think they've made the NCAA finals or in NCAA championship round 13 straight times. But the regional as it stands, it's in order as far as seeding: Stanford, Duke, Arizona State, Virginia, San Jose State, Washington, Alabama, Virginia Tech, Kansas, Long Beach State, Sacramento State, and Seattle. So those top 5 teams are all Clips rank in the top 25. You're going to have to play very, very well. You're going to have to, potentially beat Washington on their home course to get into the finals. But we just want to send our best wishes and good luck out to the ladies as they continue to represent Alabama. And hopefully it's a great 3 days for them. And we get to talk about them being in the NCAA championship here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, as Charles says, a big roll tide.
That's right. On the men's side, that will not be this week, but it will start the following week. Alabama got the 2 seed in the Chapel Hill Regional, playing at Findlay Golf Course, which is North Carolina's home course. Interesting enough, in 2015, when there was a regional in North Carolina was the 3 seed of that regional and did not make it out of the week, did not make it to the NCAA championships. I don't expect that to be the case with this team. I know North Carolina's got 2 guys that are in the top 20, top 25 of the PGA Tour U. I expect them to come out of this regional. 2 seeds, 85% of the time have typically come out in advance. So got to feel really good about that. And of course, with guys like Cannon and Thomas Ponder and JP Cave, who, they made the NCAAs last year, that competed on the individual level when we did not make it as a team. They're going to have that experience. This team has been tested not only in the there's not really a non-conference, I guess, but just the tournaments that they've played throughout the year, and then, what they've had to go up against in the SEC. It's a par 70 course, and I was kind of marveling that the front 9 is a par 34 with 3 par 3s and 2 of the first 3 holes being par 3s as well. As it stacks up for that regional, it's North Carolina, Alabama, Georgia Tech, East Tennessee State, Northwestern, Baylor, VCU, Loyola Marymount, Long Beach State, Clemson, Michigan State, Ball State, and Howard are the 13 teams in that regional. And again, 5 teams from the regional will advance to the NCAA championship. So I know the guys have been putting in a lot of work, been, seeing on Instagram from Cannon, different courses that they've been playing as they get ready to to head to Chapel Hill next week. I feel pretty confident we'll be able to talk about them going on to Carlsbad, California for the NCAA championship the following week. But also by this time next week when we're recording, they should be teeing off and playing. So we want to wish best of luck to them as well.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity, and I think the expectation is to get to the NCAA's. They are listed as one of the top 10 teams in the country. So I would assume that they would get to California, and who knows what happens. I mean, golf's a fickle game. They have an opportunity there to do something special. So
and I should say this, sorry, College Golf Book did also mention that of the last 3 national champions, they came from the 2 seed in their regional. So definitely like that as far as Alabama, and hopefully riding that Crimson Tide or that wave as well to a national championship.
Hey, and we've
Yeah,
had
no doubt.
we've had
Go
good
ahead.
success out west
We
this
have
year
it. That's right.
for Alabama athletics. So, well, good success is relative because we didn't win the Rose Bowl, but we did. The Final Four run was started out west. So
We'll forget about football this year, but but I mean, kind of going off what you were saying, they're the only SEC team. Obviously, UNC is one of the top teams in the nation. They're hosting for a reason, but they're the only SEC team. They're the only team, in my opinion, that's kind of gone up against equal competition. A lot of NCAA tournament teams. Obviously, the ACC is strong as well, and you have UNC and Georgia Tech, but they haven't seen kind of that brutal SEC schedule, that the SEC championship out at Sea Island. And I think this is when it starts to pay dividends, because Alabama knows what it takes to go in and win in these regionals to get to California and hopefully keep it going. But yeah, I think I'm gonna knock on wood, but I think they should have success, and we'll be talking about them in 2 weeks' time.
And when the guys are matched up against North Carolina in their pairing, they've played against North Carolina already. I think it was the Haight tournament that's sponsored or by North Florida. Lost that tournament by 4 to North Carolina. But so there's not going to be any shock and awe or anything like that should you be in a pairing with North Carolina and whoever else you may be when you're going after their course.
Yeah, this is the only time I'll ever say anything positive about UNC. They're pretty dang good at golf.
Well, outside of college golf, we obviously have a signature event this week in the Wells Fargo, and then some news for you guys. 2 weeks ago, we had Matthew Travis credentialed as part of the Zurich Classic, and now we have Charles Branch that's going to get credentialed for the Regions Championship in Birmingham. Charles, what do you want to talk about with that Regions Championship? And obviously, since you're going to be inside the ropes, what are you looking for with that?
It's a major on the senior tour, so these guys take it very seriously. Where they're typically playing 54 holes, it is a 72-hole event, so it'll be Thursday through Sunday. It's obviously the premier event in Alabama as it relates to tournaments. I'm very excited to have the opportunity to be out there. We've got some Alabama guys that I believe are going to be in the field, like Jason Bone and Dickie Pride. Stuart Sink is from Florence, Alabama, so hopefully have an opportunity to watch him play a little bit. But then you just look down at as far as the list of guys who are potentially going to be in the field. It has to start with Steve Stricker, who's won 3 out of the last 4 Regions traditions, and that one loss he lost in a playoff. He's made Birmingham his home, or at least the Regions his home as far as winning this tournament. But then I just started going down a list of guys that we've seen play on the PGA Tour or have seen win majors in the past. KJ Choi, John Daly, David Duval, Ernie Els, Jim Furyk, Retief Goosen, Padraig Harrington, Bernard Longer coming off of injury, Justin Leonard, Rocco Mediate, BJ Singh, David Toms, Mike Weir. Like it's a really, really good field. If you have an opportunity to go, I would definitely go out there and watch. It's interesting. I was kind of looking at the map. The 10th hole, I think, is a par 3, and I think they've tried to build it up to things like we've seen at the Waste Management 16th hole, or like we saw last week, I think it's the 16th hole as well for the Byron Nelson, where it's a little bit more of a stadium around the green. I am not going to say it gets as wild as it does at the Waste Management, and that's probably a good thing. But I think it's a great week of golf. You know, obviously regions and what it was previously being the Bruno, it gives a lot back to the community. Kids are 15 under are free with a ticketed adult. So if you're looking for, you know, some family fun as well, to get outside, it's another great reason to go. But I'm very excited to have the opportunity to be out there, hopefully be out there for the celebrity pro-am as well. See a lot of the faces that we all see on the college side, like a Nick Saban, a Kirby Smart, a Kalen DeBoer, a Bruce Pearl, a Nate Oates, Charles Barkley. Has been in this event, and he's got a golf swing now. So I keep saying it over and over again, but it's a great opportunity to showcase golf within the state of Alabama as far as a premier course within the state. And now you get premier talent out there, and you still got some guys that have ties to the state, whether playing at the University of Alabama or somebody like Stuart Sink, who's from Florence, that's going to be able to showcase his talent to people this week.
And you get, like you said, you get to bring the family out there. You get to bring Reagan out there and Wilson and the boys. And that's just going to be a great event. And then additionally, I think this week off of golf, I think like AJ McCarron's coming into town for the UFL game versus the Stallions or something like that. So Birmingham might be buzzing a little bit this weekend as far as people being in town and the different events going on. So definitely check out one of those if you can. I'll get some links together as far as how you can get tickets, and we'll post it on Twitter so people can go and find tickets there. And maybe Charles will get some interviews with some of the guys while out there. But
I'm hoping that we can get a montage of players telling us what their favorite milkshake is, and maybe
that'd be something else. What do you think, Nate Oates? What do you think Kalen DeBoer's favorite milkshakes are? The betting odds.
Nate seems like he's going to be like a peach milkshake type of guy, I think.
Did you see the Bluebell ice cream milkshakes on the graphic this week? Since it was in Texas, I had to go Bluebell.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
No, maybe.
No, I would say somebody like Kalen DeBoer. Like, I'm wondering, being from South Dakota, does he just ditch the milkshake and go for a snow cone or something like that?
That's true. Maybe. Kalen seems like he'd be like a chocolate or vanilla milkshake type of guy.
Coming from
my
Washington,
kind of guy.
maybe something with some Starbucks flavor.
I thought you were about to say seafood.
No.
Toffee, like toffee flavored, or something.
Well, now you have your assignment, Charles. We got to know.
Right.
And then outside of the champions event, PGA Champions events, we have another signature event, which is the Wells Fargo. And I'll be out there Saturday and Sunday, hopefully getting some clips and stuff for them, as I try to go to the event every year because it's based in Charlotte. And so we have a signature event with Nick Dunlap, Lee Hodges, and Justin Thomas. Those three are going to be in all of the signature events, all of the majors. Besides, I think Nick isn't currently eligible for.
Yeah, Cannon talked about that. The expectation is he'll play his way into it, but at right now he's not eligible for the British.
Yeah. So for that, and then additionally we have the Myrtle Beach
Beach Classic, yes.
That has Wilson Ferd, Davis Riley, and then Robbie Shelton, friend of the program, playing in that as the PGA event kind of offsets with the signature event. There is no Korn Ferry Tour event this week, as there are two PGA events. And then on the women's side, we have the LPGA Tour, which is the Cognizant Founders Cup, that has Kristen Gilman, Juan, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing these names wrong. You guys already know the pronunciation is awful. Juan Gian, Cheyenne Knight, Polly Max, Stephanie Meadow. The Epson Tour, which is the Carlisle, Arizona women's Golf Classic, which is Laka, Reber, Abe, the Moresco, I guess sisters with Angelica and Benedita, Lauren Stevenson, Emma Talley and Kinsey Wright, and then the Ladies European Tour, which is the Aramco Team Series in Korea, is Camila Lenarth. Lenarth. I don't know specifically how to pronounce that. And so that's kind of your title and tour. And again, we want to thank Alabama Pro Updates, John Graham. He sent that to me this morning and is going to continue to send that to us every week, just so that we make sure that we have all the bases covered as far as Alabama golfers. But let's get into
Real quick before we do fantasy, because Matthew, you're a guy who keeps up with YouTube golf a little bit, right? Like the Brian.
Yeah.
So I know George is playing in the Myrtle Beach because he released a video. I'm assuming Wesley might be playing on that.
I can tell you right now. Yeah, George and Brian, they went to South Carolina. If you don't follow them on YouTube, you're missing out. They do a great job. George is playing. Let me make sure Wesley is. Yeah, Wesley is playing as well. So, Wesley, I mean, 2 weeks ago, he almost won, or 3 weeks ago, when they were playing at the RBC, they had the Corrales down in Bermuda, I believe it was, and he finished second. He was leading through 18, 36, and 54 holes, just couldn't finish it out against Billy Horschel. But I mean, Wesley plays, he's a legitimate golfer. He's won on tour several times, but George, I believe this is his second PGA event, if I'm not mistaken. He played earlier this year, and I believe this is his second appearance.
Watching, Wesley's result in the PGA, but in that new series they just released with Grant Horvath, as trying to make the cut at the all the different major courses, and Wesley was playing pretty well at Kiowa Island, and look, Zalatoris dropped out. I needed somebody. It didn't work out for me, but that's why I felt like I'd give him an opportunity on the fantasy team, because he had been playing good golf, I think, recently. And I do think that's something as it relates to just the whole golf world and the YouTube golf that makes it a lot more fun and a lot more enjoyable and gets more people in, is you got more people that are playing, but also talking about how they're playing. I know that's something that the PGA Tour's tried to do, where they interview guys that are walking up to their next shot, sometimes from the tee box and stuff like that. Just the insights that we were able to gather from somebody like Cannon last week, and the ways they're able to teach us and all that. I think that's how golf is continuing to adapt to what we want as far as sports fans. But also it's a sport that we can get out there and play almost any time, unlike baseball, basketball, and football, where there's a point you got to hang it up.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about it there. Last year, it was the PGA Championship, so I'm sure they'll do it, not this week, but next week for the PGA at Valhalla too. Justin Thomas had an AirPod in while he was swinging, because he was getting interviewed as he walked up the course. Max Homa did it. Michael Block, the PGA professional who was playing and finished 15th, he was doing it. So it was really cool to kind of see. And Max Homa talked about it after the round, how he thought it actually helped him a little bit, because he was verbalizing, I have to do this, and he was thinking more as he was walking up rather than when he was physically at his ball about to hit the ball. He was talking about, I have to hit this club and I have to land it here on the green because it's going to roll down to the left, or the wind is doing this, the air, whatever it was. And he talked about how he thought that actually helped him, but it was wild to see them walking up with an AirPod and have an AirPod in while they were swinging. I think Rory did it for a hole, but he didn't love it. But talking about YouTube golf and kind of all that, I think that's something Liv has done really well, because Bryson DeChambeau has obviously, he's kind of taken over with YouTube golf, and he's playing with Good and doing stuff with Garrett Clark, who's with Good and all that stuff. And he does stuff at every Liv event. He talks about, like, he has a video with Phil Mickelson, their money match in a practice round, and he's always recording his practice rounds and doing fun stuff and putting it on YouTube. And I've seen it on Twitter. People are saying, which I'm curious of your thoughts, people are saying YouTube golf is kind of growing the game a little more than the PGA is because it's so easily consumable, and you can find a million videos on YouTube where PGA, you watch it and you see your what was it, the commercial
Here we go.
you see a BB Go commercial every 30 seconds, or they have the two box with a commercial in the big screen and then playing the small screen. And a couple months ago, Good and NBC partnered on the Good Cup out in Arizona, and it was just all these and Canna was eating it up. He was talking about it on Twitter, and it was just a bunch of creators, a bunch of YouTube golfers, social media personalities playing in a tournament, and they had all the NBC graphics and everything, and it was really well done. And there wasn't a single commercial. There were good commercials every once in a while, but it wasn't like every 20 seconds we're going to cut commercials. So I'm curious on your guys' thoughts. Do you think YouTube golf has grown the game a little more recently than the PGA has?
Well, I'll say this. Oh, a couple things. One, Good's doing another event. Talking about YouTube golf. The Midwest Open, June 18th. I think it's in. I'm looking at it right now.
I believe it's in Wisconsin.
Yeah, French
if I'm
Lick
not
Golf.
mistaken. Yeah.
French Lick Golf. And one thing that people, and I like you said, I think Live is kind of understood, and the PGA is a little bit further behind in, is YouTube. You have an ability with YouTube. If you look at like Mr. Beast or things like that, you can go get 100 million, 200 million, 300 million views on a video in a few, maybe not in a few days, but in like a month. If you're really big, like a Mr. Beast, or you can get 19, 20 million views on a video, just depending on, kind of the content. Whereas in a standard, probably PGA Tour event, you're probably getting what, maximum, I think, like 5 million views on a round in a given weekend or a given round. And so on top of that, the audience, kind of the age range for YouTube is a lot younger than what you would get on, a broadcast channel. And I feel like with the YouTube, it makes it, not the YouTube, sorry, that was bad. With YouTube, it makes it seem like a normal person can go out and play golf. Whereas with a PGA Tour event, a lot of the times, unless you're just insanely wealthy, you can't go play those golf courses. You can't go play, Augusta. You can't go play TPC Sawgrass unless you have $700 for a round, like the places like that. Whereas, the places that these guys are playing at, like, you can go, they're maybe public courses, sometimes private courses, that you can go pay $70 and go play. And it's a younger audience too, or a younger people that are doing it are younger. They're not these 30, 40-year-old guys, or most of them are not 30, 40-year-old guys. They're guys in their 20s that people can relate to. And so from that perspective, it really allows the game to kind of take a different light, rather than it be this, I guess you would call it, country club type of standard of athletic, event, where it's now more, a casual guy can go out and go play. And then they don't have guys that are, these scratch golfers. I mean, some of the YouTube golfers are scratch golfers, like Pat Perez, Garrett Clark, obviously the Brian Bros, Grant Horvat, Micah Morris, those guys. But a lot of them are guys that like play like I do, or play like Charles does, which, they're 15, 16, sometimes 20 handicap guys that, make mistakes and duff, chips and all of this. And so from that perspective, it makes it a little bit more fun rather than just a serious sport, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think watching the Breaking 90 series with Trent that the Foreplay Pod guys do through Barstool Sports, like, that's what kind of got me into it, is because you do see somebody who isn't just some world beater. He's learning the game. He's looking to get better. And then you do have the really good players that you can go watch as well. My curiosity with where YouTube golf goes is in this era of name, image, and likeness. When do you start seeing college programs working with, I guess it would be their communications or colleges, and finding guys that are willing to go out there and film these college golfers and put the production together that's just taking their rounds? And, yes, that's an investment from the athletic department that you're taking more of a team out there to these tournaments. But I would see that as a great recruiting tool to get great golfers into your school, because you're putting the clips together for them that are then going on YouTube so that other people around the country can watch them play. I mean, I was a little surprised, just as it relates to the SEC championship, that we didn't have more video or more clips of some of our guys as they were playing out there while the tournament was going on. So that's something that I'm kind of curious to see is there a college program that takes that step and sees the success that YouTube golf is having and tries to use that as a recruiting tool? And I would think too, for their own players, you're getting used to a cameraman being in your backswing, basically, and you're getting used to that pressure of always being on film and stuff like that. It's something that I'd like to see in Alabama do, of course, that I go back and have a catalog of watching, Nick Dunlap or Cannon or Thomas, or, go back even further to some other guys and just see how they performed in certain tournaments.
Yeah, that'd be something. I imagine we're somewhat close to that, because I mean, Good already sponsored, like Andrew Kozan. He finished fifth, I think, 2 weeks ago on the Corn Ferry. He's sponsored by Good. The apparel he wears is Good. Like, I know that's not the same thing, but these people are already sponsoring players on the tour, players on the Corn Ferry, stuff like that. And I don't think it's too long until, I mean, LSU does a great job with their social and their NIL and stuff. I wouldn't imagine it'd be too long until like an LSU or like an Oregon, same kind of thing, where they do a great job with their social and getting fans engaged and everything, where they're like, I think we're missing an opportunity here, and this could at least try it. I mean, I would eat that up. I think Alabama fans, similar to us, because Cannon has talked a lot about YouTube golf. Him and I have talked about YouTube golf in the past with the Desert Open and all that stuff, where it takes someone like a player who's a fan of stuff like that, and they're like, what if we tried this? Because I mean, crazy enough, if you remember a couple years ago, the UCF kicker, he's now a massive YouTuber, destroying. He was in the UFL for a minute until he, I think, broke his collarbone. But the NCAA told him he either had to pick YouTube or college football, because he was profiting off his name, image, and likeness, but it was through YouTube monetization. It's crazy we had that, and now we're talking about why aren't they doing this? But it would be really cool to see them start that. I mean, because that would only pay dividends for guys like Cannon, Thomas, guys who are already on the team, and Nick, who is now on the PGA. If he had something like that, he maybe could have gotten more sponsors as he got to the PGA, because he was already, like, people were already consuming him as a fan and watching him talk about a shot in a practice round for the SECs or stuff like that. I think it would be awesome. I hadn't really thought about that, but that would be really, really cool to see.
Well, you talked about destroying, but Garrett Clark actually had the same thing. He had to go to community college because they wouldn't allow him to go to the NCAA or D1 or D2, wherever he was going to go, because of his YouTube channel. And you look at another guy, this is not golf related, but Ryan Trahan. I watch a lot of YouTube. So Ryan Trahan, who's, I think he has like 15, 20 million followers, but he was he ran track for Texas A&M. And it's the same thing with destroying, where the NCAA came to him and said, it's either YouTube or it's track and field. And then now, like, I don't think we've seen, obviously, like Livy Dunn for LSU gymnastics has kind of capitalized on a social media type of presence. And people like that. But I don't think we've seen someone kind of capture that type of YouTube growth and sustainability as far as just college sports in general. And with the rise of college golf, I think it's a real opportunity. So it might be something that I don't have a lot of contacts, but it might be something that I reach out to someone and say, hey, like this is an area that you could really kind of expand into.
What if we started it? We'll chase
Yeah.
it up the flagpole.
Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
Alabama on the precipice, and now we have more Alabama fans, and you
That's
can
right.
thank the Mulligans and Milkshakes podcast.
Yeah. So that was a tangent, but let's let's
Talk
get
about
back.
the Byron Nelson.
Yeah, let's talk about the Byron Nelson, which again, like we mentioned in the opening, somehow Matthew Travis, even with the disadvantage, has still extended his lead on us. What do you got for us on the Byron Nelson, Matthew?
Yeah, I mean, it was Davis Riley was playing phenomenally. We'll get to fantasy in a minute, but Davis Riley was playing really well for a little while there, and then kind of slipped off, finished in a tie for 30th, and so did Nick. They were both 14 under, but it was or was it 14 under, or I believe it was it was 14. And Taylor Pendrith ended up getting his first PGA Tour win. He played at Kent State. He's from Canada, but Alex Noren, he was on my team. That's where a bulk of my points came from. He finished in solo third. We kind of talked about it last week. It wasn't really a stacked field, so it was an opportunity for Nick, for the other Alabama golfers. There were 5 of them in the field. Only 2 of them, and Nick and Davis Riley, ended up making the cut. But it was an opportunity for them to kind of stack up and maybe gain some FedEx Cup points, which obviously they wasn't really the case, but it wasn't really a strong field for the casual golfer. You probably didn't recognize a whole lot of names. I mean, the top 5 or the top 3 was Taylor Pendrith, it was Ben Coles, and Alex Noren. So the average golf fan, kind of a casual golf fan, probably didn't know a lot of those names, but it still ended up being a quality tournament. I mean, the scores, I talked about it last week, the scores for the Byron Nelson are always absurd, and this year was no different. I mean, Taylor Pendrith won at 23 under, and the cut line was something absurd. I mean, the cut line was 6 under. 6 under. You shoot 5 under and you don't make the cut, which is just insane. So it's cool to watch in that aspect of all these guys are coming with their A game because they have to in order. Like 23 under is absurd. That's an average of 5.5 under per round. And so it's kind of cool to see in that aspect, but stinks not being able to see like top names, but that's what the Wells Fargo, that's what these signature events are for. But good tournament nonetheless. And like I said, we'll get to fantasy in a minute, but yeah, congrats Taylor Pendrith on getting his first PGA Tour win.
Yeah.
Well,
And, sorry, go ahead, Charles.
Just not to rehash our previous conversation about content, but because one, you did have a bunch of guys competing to win, but since there wasn't really a big name up there, you weren't focusing in, the TV wasn't focusing in on 1 or 2 or 3 guys. You got to watch a lot of golf from a lot of different players, which if you're going to have these events and you don't have star-studded fields, I think even casual golf fans, like you just want to see guys hit shots. You want to see them, make putts, or at least try to make putts. And I did feel like the times I was watching, that's what we got, is we got a lot of golf.
And a commercial.
Well, yeah, and a commercial. But we got to watch a lot of golf and not just a lot of guys walking to go play golf.
Well, and I'll say this, the thing I like about the whole signature event, I know that the fields aren't as good in the non-signature events leading up to like a major or a signature event, but what I like is like I don't know why I forgot the name immediately. The guy that won,
Taylor Pendrith.
Yeah, Pendrith. It was his first win, and he immediately gets into the signature events. He immediately gets into the majors. And so we've seen that with Akshay leading up to the Masters, and then we've seen that with Pendrith leading up to the Wells Fargo and leading up to the PGA Tour.
Nick Dunlap
as well, where you have these guys that are winning these events that are playing into these signature events. And I kind of like that storyline where, it's not necessarily minor league because they're all PGA golfers, but you're not getting Rory going out and just winning the Byron Nelson. You're not getting, Justin or Jordan or, these guys, even though Jordan was in the event, but you're not getting these guys just going out and just winning and they're winning all the time. You're getting new names that are playing into the fields that are now like, I feel like it's just making the PGA more diverse relative to you're not just having Scotty Scheffler go out and win every event, and he goes out and wins every event regardless when he plays. But like we said previously, he's not just going and playing the Byron Nelson just to go play the Byron Nelson anymore. It's guys that are trying to fight, and so you generally the golf is a little bit, I think, more competitive relative to guys just going out and playing to play. So I kind of appreciate that.
Yeah, no doubt. It's cool. It's cool to see, kind of like you said, or like Charles said, rather. It's cool to see just golf. If you watch the broadcast, it was a lot of golf and a lot of BB Go commercials, but more golf than not. And it's cool to see, rather than like if you watch the Zurich, you watch a lot of Rory and they ended up winning. So, but that's one thing. But when you watch these events where a big name like Rory or Scotty or Ludwig or whoever it might be, one of those top players is in, you're watching a lot of them and less of the field as a whole. But like Charles said, you're watching a lot of golf, and 9 times out of 10, it's a golfer the casual fan hadn't heard of. But that's how you grow the game, and how these guys gain fans, and how they get into the majors and the signature events, which now we're in a signature event week, and it's a course I've played before. Of course, Christian has been to several times. Of course, Alabama golf has had success at, and Justin Thomas, his first major win, and it's a week I'm excited for this week.
Well, and you get a week that Rory has won a lot, which I know
Three
Rory's your
times.
guy. I know
Three
Rory's your
times.
guy, and you talked to him at the Zurich Classic about getting back to the Wells Fargo. So, um, it's something that is exciting for golfers. And like I said, I'll be out there Saturday, Sunday. So I'm excited to spend all week. This is something that I always circle on my calendar as far as a tournament that I want to go to. So I'm
Yeah,
excited
let
about
me
that.
like I'll read the past champions down to 2015 and before 2015. So Rory's first PGA win was at Quail Hollow at the it was then the it wasn't the Wells Fargo, it was the old bank, but I forget what it was called. But um Rory won here 3 times, Tiger Woods won here, Ricky Fowler's won here, and from 2015 on it was Rory, James Hahn, who was a bit of an outlier. He won in the playoff. And then it was Brian Harmon, Jason Day, Max Homa, Rory, Max Homa again, and Wyndham Clark. So all of these are guys who are top 5, top 10 golfers in the world. Max Homa's won there twice. Rory's won there 3 times, which Brian Harmon wasn't at Quail Hollow, and Max Homa's second one wasn't at Quail Hollow either. Because they were preparing in 2017 when Brian Harmon won it. They were preparing for the 2017 PGA, so it was off-site. And then in 2022, when Homa won it the second time, it was at TPC Potomac because they were preparing for the President's Cup. But still, this is a course, and Justin Thomas won the 2017 PGA there. This is a course that all the top golfers love to play. And then you'll hear it a lot on the broadcast this week, the Green Mile. Me playing there, I can promise you it is not fun to play. The 16th, 17th, and 18 holes are, I believe it's the longest stretch of holes to finish around on the PGA Tour. I could be wrong in that, but it's nicknamed the Green Mile. They moved the 16th green like 80 yards to the left or something like that when in preparation for the PGA Championship, and they pushed all the tee boxes back in preparation for the PGA. So it is not an easy course. Last year was kind of an outlier. Wyndham Clark won at 19 under last year. So it was scoreable last year. I think the weather was just perfect. He won by 4 strokes, which is absurd, but I wouldn't expect it to be 19 under. I mean, and Rory was 21. He won by 7 strokes in 2015, but that was before they renovated it. I would expect this week this is kind of a course where it's like 10 to 15 under, which now with golf being like we just saw this week, 23 under, it's nice to see them challenged a little bit. And I think that's kind of what this week provides. 6 years out of 7, but um, yeah, it's one of my favorite tournaments. I've been there a million times for the Wells Fargo, the PGA, and I've played there 3 times. So it's a great course, and I'm really excited to see kind of who comes out on top, and presumably they'll be on my team as they have been the last couple weeks.
Oh, I've seen I mean I've been to the last. Well, I didn't get to go to the one for the President's Cup, but I was there for the President's Cup. But I've been to the Wells Fargo since every year since 2019, I think. I've been at Quill Hollow, maybe not necessarily the Wells Fargo, but seeing 17 when you talk about the Green Mile, being at that tee box, because sometimes I like to sit at the 16th green, 17th tee box. And for those of you who don't know, 17 is a par 3. And you look at the shots that it's all over water. It's not an island green, but it's a peninsula green. There's nothing in front of the green, and there's nothing behind the green. I mean, there's grandstands, but it's for them to hit that shot, and a lot of the times you have the wind coming off the right, I believe. It's a dangerous, it's a scary shot to hit, because essentially a lot of the guys you'll see either aiming at, I think there's a bunker on the
Bunker
front,
on bunker on the front right.
and they'll aim at that bunker and just kind of allow the ball to kind of come back in. They don't even try to test the water, because a lot of the times, like I said, the wind's coming off the right. That's one of those shots that's just like, if I were to hit that shot, I mean, 10 times out of 10, it's going in the water. There's no exception. Like
I will say I hit the green on 17, so a little pat on the back. And then 18, you have the creek crossing over, and on the left side, I think it was 2015 when Rory won. I forget what day it was, but I was standing on the left side of the creek, green side, and he almost hit me. And he walked up and he said, and I won't try and mimic the accent, but he asked if he hit me, shook my hand, and that was the first time he shook my hand, which now he's 2-0 in tournaments. He shakes my hand. So like I said last week, Rory, just let me know. But I mean, it's a brutal stretch the last 3 holes, and a lot of guys, they're kind of lucky to get out of there even par over the last 3. But it's a really, really fun course to play and really fun course to watch. And hopefully we have a lot of good golf from these top guys who, like I said, the top guys play well here. Jason Day is in the field again, Max Homa, Rory, all the guys who have won here recently. So it'll be cool to see.
And it looks like the weather for Thursday, there's rain in the forecast, at least as of right now. Overcast on Friday. And then Saturday, Sunday, I mean, it's going to be not low temperatures. It's going to be 72. But doesn't look like there's any clouds or rain in the forecast. So it might be pretty scoreable, especially if it does rain Thursday and Friday. You might see the course kind of get a little damp and allow the guys to attack it a little bit more. And then obviously it'll probably dry out Friday or Saturday and Sunday but like, being in the area, the wind hasn't been too terrible. It hasn't been anything like it was at Augusta a few weeks ago. It's just been a lot of rain, and I assume that they have the ability, because like it rained all weekend this week, and then it's supposed to rain this week as well, today, and then obviously Thursday. So they'll have the ability to kind of try out the course as best as possible, but you might see some favorable scoring Thursday and Friday.
And don't forget the PGA is there next year too. So a lot of these guys are trying to get looks at it and ahead of next year. Like I said, Rory was looking forward to it because it's one of his favorite courses. He's won there 3 times. So unfortunately, I don't think he's fallen past the first pick in the second round. But yeah, I mean, I sound like a broken record, but it's my favorite tournament, not just because I've played there and it's one of the few PGA courses I've played, but it just provides for a lot of drama. They've gone to a playoff a couple times. James Hahn won it in a playoff a couple years ago, but provides a lot of close scores and a lot of drama down the stretch because the top guys tend to play really well there.
So do we want to get to picks or fantasy on that?
Yeah, I'm ready if you guys want.
Let's do it.
Awesome. So I'll recap last week and where we are right now in terms of fantasy. So last week, I won. I had 15 points. Charles had -10, slipped down in the pimento cheese rankings, and Christian got 5. So I'll recap the points and the cuts. Charles chose Wesley Bryan in place of who is he in place of?
Zalatoris.
Zalatoris, that's right. So Zalatoris withdrew. He went with Wesley Bryan as his replacement. Wesley did not make the cut. He was 2 over on the weekend, had a rough weekend. Rob McIntyre, same thing, -5 under, and he missed a cut, which is just crazy. Wilson Furr missed a cut as well, but he didn't get negative points. Wilson is a Bama guy. And unfortunately, Charles did not have anyone in the top 20. His only that made the cut, Nick Dunlap, finished tied for 30th. Jason Day tied for 59th, and Tom Kim for 52nd. For me, my Alabama golfer, I only had one. They both had 2. Davis Riley, he was top 5 for a while. I think he got up to like second place for a minute there on Thursday. He finished at 14 under, tied for 30th. Jordan Spieth did not make the cut. Rough weekend for him comparatively to where everyone was, but Siwoo Kim was in the top 20, finished in 13th at 17 under. Like Charles, I also had to get a replacement. Sung J M withdrew. I think he was sick or something. I was between Jake Knapp and Adam Scott. Should have went with Jake Knapp. He finished in 8th. I went with Adam Scott, who finished in 30th. And then Alex Noren, my my big points finisher, he finished at 21 in 3rd. And finally, Christian, Bud Cauley, and Robbie Shelton did not make the cut, but they're Alabama golfers. No missed points there. He didn't get any negative points for cut, and his only player who finished in the top 20, barely finished in the top 20. Keith Mitchell, he finished at 16 under in a tie for 20th, and that brings us to this week. I have the first overall pick, which is the Alabama round. Christian has the second, and Charles has the third, which means Charles has the first non-Alabama golfer, and I think we have a good idea of who he's probably going to pick there. But yeah, if we're ready, we'll get right into it. And I'm going to go with the only Alabama golfer who has won here. He won the PGA Championship at Quail Hollow in 2017. I was on the green watching. It was very cool to see. That would be Justin Thomas, of course. So, Justin Thomas, welcome back to Team Travis.
And I'm gonna go Nick Dunlap with my Alabama golfer pick.
That leaves Charles with Lee Hodges.
Yeah, and I am going to go with Rory after Lee.
What a shocker.
Yeah, you just talked him up so much. So sorry, Rory will not be making the cut this week, but I will be going with Rory.
Well, there's no cut this week.
He will not be playing well this week.
Yeah, so no cut,
He
and
he may cut himself just to go ahead and get to Valhalla early after his first 2 rounds.
Withdraw after Friday.
Yeah.
But like Christian said there, no cut signature event. And since it is a signature event, kind of like we talked about a couple weeks ago, it is 5 additional points. And for the Alabama golfers, since it's double before the 5 additional points, because if you double with it, then it's 10. But so say Justin Thomas wins, 25 doubled to 50 plus 5 would be 55.
This one might be a little crazy with my first pick of non-Alabama. I'm going Max Homa.
That was gonna be mine. That was gonna be mine. I like how he's playing, and yeah, great pick. Damn.
Yeah,
but
he finished the last 2 years. He's finished first and then finished tied for 8th. So
and he won it when it was at Eagle Point too. But damn. But anyway, good pick. Now I'm spiraling. I guess I'll go. He hasn't been playing. I'll go Xander Schauffele. He finished, I think, 2nd last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go Xander. And then Wyndham's 1, but he's so boring to watch. Ludwig, I don't think he's even played at Quail. I'll go Wyndham. I'll go Wyndham. That just sent me on a spiral. I thought I was gonna get a steal in Max Homa, but yeah,
Uh,
Xander and Wyndham.
I have to make sure that because with all the live stuff, I have to make sure that they're actually in the field. So hold on just a second.
Who is
Um,
it?
no, I'm looking at the field right now.
Okay.
Let's see. Um, okay, they're in there. They're in there.
By the way,
Let
Ricky Fowler's one here too. So if you
yeah,
want to
let me
take a
get.
flyer,
No, I'm gonna take a flyer on Ludwig.
that's hardly a flyer, but
Well, in the sense that I don't think he's played at Wells Fargo,
yeah.
but I think he's good enough. I think he's good enough this week to be able to get it done. I'm surprised Scotty isn't playing. I guess Meredith had her child.
I haven't heard anything, so I'm on the side of hasn't had it yet, but no
Is
way he misses. No way he just doesn't play at the PGA. But we talked about it a couple weeks ago. It is interesting that he's not playing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna go Ludwig.
Yeah, I was gonna say if we continue this segment, we'll probably have to change our names to Mulligans, Milkshakes, and Maternity. I do know they were talking about on the broadcast that his parents just being golf junkies. I think they were out walking around the Byron Nelson with it being in Texas. Um, and I will say as time continues to go on, going back to our whole conversation about the Masters, like would he have left, would he have stayed, all that. I think now knowing that we're 4 or 5 weeks past that he would have left, hopefully there wouldn't have been complications or anything like that. But to be born that early to what your due date would have been, I do think Scotty would have gotten out of there. But that's a completely different segment that we're not trying to add to this podcast. So getting back to picks, I will go with Tommy Fleetwood.
I was gonna pick him next.
That's
And
what you
then
get for taking Max Homa.
And then I'm going to go with Harris English.
Harris English, very nice.
So I am going to pick again. Let me make sure he's in the field. I'm gonna pick I'm gonna pick Jason Day.
Very nice. He's won here. I think it was what 2018, something like that. He's won there, so I like it. Victor Hovland slipped to me. I'm not gonna let him slip past me. I'll go with Victor here, and my final pick. I don't like how Cantley's been playing. I don't want to take him. I'll go Colin Morikawa. I'll go. There are a lot of names there that I like a lot, but that's kind of the nature of the signature events.
And then with my final pick, I'm going Ricky.
Very
He finished
nice.
tied for 21st in 2022 and finished tied for 14th in 2023. So
And he's won.
And he's won. So
I think it was like 2012, but point
Still
remains.
won.
Point remains.
He hasn't played there since 2019, but when he's played there, he's played pretty well. I'm going Justin Rose as my
Very nice.
final pick.
Very nice. Wow. Patrick Cantley goes undrafted. Sahith goes undrafted.
I thought about Sahith. Adam Scott
I
was
thinking
another
about
one.
Sahith.
Adam Scott was another one that I was thinking of.
All right, so y'all bring up Adam Scott, and I was thinking about this watching him. Well, how do you look at Adam Scott's career? You know, he won the Masters in 2013, but that's been his only major. Like, do you look
That's a
at
good question.
Because
For a while there, he was talked in the same breath as the top golfers with Rory, with at the time I think it was Rory, Phil, and Tiger, and Jason Day as well. He was talked in the same breath as them because every week he went into as one of the preemptive favorites, and every week it kind of just for a while. If you remember, he had the chin putter, and when they outlawed the chin putter, he struggled for a while to kind of get his groove back, and then he brought back the belly putter and won for the first time in years. And But that's a good question because for I think I'd put him in the same breath as like a Justin Rose, because Justin Rose, same thing. I think he's won what, one major, the U.S. Open, or as he no he because he won the British Open too, I
Mhm.
believe. So he has two majors, but he also won the first Olympic gold medal when they introduced that was, I think, Rio, when they brought back golf. But I think I would put them kind of in a similar boat of really good golfers, a lot of potential, always were a name you talked about, especially when you went to an Augusta, but kind of just didn't pan out and couldn't put 4 rounds together.
The
I,
resume wins are just not there.
Exactly.
Like if
Like
I
the top five, the top tens, he can compete with anyone, but the wins just how many wins does he have?
I think
yeah,
he's a lot similar to like Ricky Fowler in that sense, where Ricky's kind of like one of those named guys, but besides
But he
last
got
year,
over the hump and got a
yeah,
major.
yeah,
yeah, Ricky's still in like the Lee Westwood column for me. Really
Yeah,
good
I would
player,
agree.
always competitive, has not gotten over the hump to get a major. When I
So
go ahead.
so Adam Scott has 14 PGA Tour wins, just the one major at Augusta. He has 111 top tens.
Jesus,
111. And he has 14 runner-ups, as many as he does wins, and he has 62 top fives. That's absurd. That is just unbelievable. And I mean, this year he's played okay. He has one top 10, 5 top 25s. He's only missed one cut. He's played, I think, 8 tournaments so far. Um, but yeah, that's just, and I'm pulling up the majors right now. Let's see.
Like when I think about his career and the top 30 moments that stand out, it does start with the Masters. I happened to be there for that match
Really?
tournament, so I remember him winning that. The second moment that comes to mind was him losing the British Open the year before, where he had a 4-stroke lead with 4 holes left and lost to Ernie Els by 1 stroke. And then the third, y'all may have been too young for this, but when Stevie transitioned from Tiger's bag to Adam's bag, it was
Mm-hmm.
the first week that Steve Williams was on the bag for Adam Scott and they won. And the first person they interviewed, they didn't interview Adam Scott, they interviewed Williams. And he threw a lot of shade to Tiger doing that interview. Not surprising, but I just remember watching that and just how unique that was, that Adam Scott's the guy who went out there, won it, and the first person you go to was to interview Stevie Williams over Adam Scott. And that was when Adam was obviously a younger and he wasn't up and coming golfer. He hadn't had obviously all these wins and hadn't had the major. But those are the three things in his career that stick out to me. But then as you just rattled off, 14 wins and all the runner-ups and the top fives and the top tens. Like he's obviously a guy who's earned a lot of money playing golf, because you're going to be earning some good paychecks when you finish that highly on the leaderboard in all those tournaments.
So, a little trivia since COVID. So, 2020, how many top 20s does he have, and how many cuts does he have in majors, if you had to guess?
How many tournaments is that?
That is not in, well, there was only one in 2020, so it's 14.
Okay.
he's only played in
Or
14.
excuse me, 11. 11.
He's only
It's
played in
just
11 events.
majors, the
Oh,
majors.
majors.
Yeah, just the majors.
He's probably what, like 6 and 5.
I'm gonna say
Top 20s and cuts.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
six and
say
five.
he missed 2 cuts and he's got 7 top 20s.
2 cuts, 2 top 20s.
2 top 20s.
And 11, I mean, it was the same year, 2022. He was 14th at the US Open and 15th at the Open. He has a tie this year. He finished tied for 22nd at the Masters, and in 2020 was PGA Championship. But if you look at the years before that, 2019 he was 18th, 8th, and 7th. Missed a cut at the Open. 18 was 32nd, 3rd, and 17th, and 17 was 9th. Yeah, I mean, before that, he was very consistent. He was always on that first page of the leaderboard. But since COVID, it kind of slipped. I mean, if you had to, I don't know if you could even begin to guess, but his official tour winnings, what would you guess
25
over
million?
his career?
25 million?
He's won 14 tournaments, 111 top tens.
65 million.
Okay, yeah.
Right on the money, 64 million.
Yeah.
Which
The
is
top
crazy.
tens is what is, I was like, okay, well,
Yeah, 62 top fives.
Yeah.
So that's just absurd. But anyway, getting back to fantasy, so I'll rattle up the teams. I got Justin Thomas as my Alabama golfer, Xander Schauffele, Wyndham Clark, Victor Hovland, and Colin Morikawa. I really don't like my team, but I think Justin will kind of make up for that. I see him having a good week this week. Christian has Nick Dunlap, Max Homa, Ludwig Oberg, Jason Day, and Ricky Fowler. I like your team, especially those first 3 rounds. And then Charles is Lee Hodges, Rory McIlroy, Tommy Fleetwood, Harris English, and Justin Rose. If I was a betting man, I think I would be betting on Christian's team this week. But hopefully Justin Thomas can make up for that. Maybe get a win. That'll be 55 points for me.
I hope Nick I really hope Nick does well. We talked about a little bit about him needing to kind of qualify for the British Open. I'm not sure what the qualifications. I think it might be top 50 on the PGA or like the FedEx Cup points. I think qualifies, and I think he's 72nd right now. So I really hope for him to have a good week. I think this is an opportunity for him to kind of maybe push towards that British Open type of qualification that he needs. So
Yeah, he had a
really-
solid week last week. 14 under, tied for 30th is nothing to sneeze at for sure. So hopefully he can build on that and maybe improve over the next couple of weeks.
All right. Well, I think that's it. I think this episode went a little bit longer than what we normally do. Just a lot to talk about. Next week we hope to have I think Doug,
we will. We'll have Doug Bell. He's the on-course reporter for PGA Tour Radio, does stuff with a lot of the other and so he will preview the PGA Championship with him. That'll be at Valhalla. Yeah, so I confirmed it a little while ago. He will be with us next week, so that'll be a good one.
Yeah, and we probably won't touch too much on college golf as the men's team will be teeing off probably when we're recording, and then we'll touch on kind of the women's results. But I think the main focus is going to be for the PGA Championship. Again, at Valhalla, a place where Justin Thomas has probably grown up playing that course. So it'll definitely be interesting from an Alabama golf perspective. But with that, I think we're good to sign off, and we'll talk again next week. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Well done.